It's really exciting. We have the advantage that we can just wait and allow the project to mature, allow our construction to start. We're not scrambling to find a tenant because we know further down the line we are with the redevelopment, the higher rent we're going to get.
Welcome to another episode of Kiss My Assets. This is Jamison Manwaring, co-founder and CEO of Neighborhood Ventures, and it's Christmas week here, and what better Christmas present for all our investors than some great news on one of our projects. So we have our VP of Acquisitions, Chris Lacasse, here with us. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
We're good. And Chris recently became a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
This is your first Christmas as a U.S. citizen.
That's right. Yeah. I feel the freedom.
I spent 2 Christmases in Canada, in eastern Canada, Nova Scotia, and I felt very Canadian. And Canada's a great place for Christmas. I mean, people are out like ice skating, and it's now you're here in Arizona. You're a U.S. citizen now.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ball game than Canada.
I sometimes I miss the snow, but I don't miss shoveling it. And I don't have that much desire to fly up there right now into the freezing cold when it's 70 degrees out here.
No, yeah. The summers are beautiful, and you're in the right spot for winter. And I'm the same, being from Idaho. I love being here in Arizona. So, Christmas week, I just got back from swimming in Tempe at ASU. I'm like, who in the world can be out swimming in December outside? With beautiful weather. We're really blessed here, and living in Arizona is at this time of year just it makes so much sense. And then there's all this excitement because there's bowl games here and all this stuff is happening, and a lot of that does happen in Tempe. There's a bowl game at the Sun Devil Stadium, then there's the big one, the Fiesta Bowls, out at in Glendale at the State Farm Arena. But our project in Tempe on Broadway is what we want to get an update on. You shared a little bit of news about that last week. We did a promo video, and just want to build on that a little bit. If you can kind of tell us what happened, and we have a little bit more time to talk about it here, so I want to give a little bit more background on what happened, the lead up to that, and then what was approved last week on that project.
Yeah, sure. So one of the biggest things for us with that project was it's an adaptive reuse project. So we're adding a drive-through behind a building that never had a drive-through. So that was some, creative problem solving and securing a tenant and making that work. But as part of that, we knew we had the city's approval somewhat. They were on board with the idea of getting a drive-through, but there's a lot more work involved in that. There's still hoops we have to go through. So, we spent a little over 9 months working with the city on approval for what is called a drive-through use permit that allows us to have that drive-through. And as well as that, we need site plan overall redevelopment approval as well. So we were, as I mentioned, working really hard on that. There were delays with the city, related to COVID. But after all that long work, last week, they had their Development Review Commission hearing at which we were approved for our drive-through use permit and our site plan, which is excellent, makes us very happy. I mean, we expected we were going to be approved, but nonetheless, it feels really great to get past that hurdle and just kind of now really be able to hit the gas with marketing and kicking off construction and everything else here shortly.
Sure, and it's good to do that research beforehand and to feel confident of the final approval, but until that crosses the goal line, you can get all the way down to the 1 yard line and not get in the end zone, and then it's not worth anything. But having that final approval and just hearing and understanding the value that's created by now bringing a drive-through into a retail area that was kind of before, I don't know what you'd classify it, but there was like a mattress shop in there. There was a smoke shop in there. It wasn't the type of retail that is kind of this really desirable tenant that now we have and have attracted because of the drive-through with Dunkin Donuts. So, I don't know if you could put some, numbers around it, but going through this whole 9-month process to be able to get a drive-through now, what that does to the value of the building just kind of instantly.
Yeah, I mean, honest, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say we essentially double the value of the property based on the rent we can command with a drive-through versus the rent you command without a drive-through.
Yep.
And one of the other really big components about that site that we're seeing firsthand now is directly across the street for many years was a call center building, kind of underutilized, more industrial type space. And now those 324 luxury apartment units are nearing completion. And the site, when you stand on site versus when we closed on this deal in July, it's almost night and day difference. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that area of Tempe was always a little bit interesting to me because it was a little bit more gritty, not really the restaurants that are highly trafficked. You'd see some smaller little restaurants, some smaller shops, kind of a more of a kind of eclectic area, a little bit of an industrial feel across the way. There's this dairy plant, I think it's Shamrock. Now you drive by it and you have these 324 luxury apartments, and yeah, you're right. They look complete almost from the outside. Stucco. I think it's 3 or 4 levels from what I recall. That whole neighborhood's changed. So how did we get this timing? Because everyone now looking back on it, everyone's like, well, that's easy. You guys just went in and piggybacked on the apartment building. Like anybody could do that. But there was a lot of work and planning and research that went into figuring out how to do this, right?
Yeah, and I think, we have to tap ourselves on the back a little bit in terms of the creative problem solution with coming up with a drive-through that can wrap around the building. Even that took a lot of planning. It's not just a simple line just to draw and say, we'll do this. There's a lot of work involved. But I mean, if you could go back 12 months ago and tell people there's going to be these apartments and you can do a drive-through here, there would have been an absolute bidding frenzy to buy this property. Where we were able to create the value was by seeing that solution ourselves and buying it kind of as is and doing the work ourselves, which really works out well for us.
Yeah, I love the value add play because anybody can go buy a building that has tenants in place that are paying rents, that needs no renovations, and it will generate some cash flow for them. But to get into kind of the double-digit returns, which is what we like to pay our investors, you have to be a bit more creative. You have to go find a project that has a little bit of hair on it, as the industry says. It has a little hair on it, and that other people would pass up. They don't have the vision for it. But in this case, you started with the vision. You started putting it together. As you presented that plan to John and I, it made perfect sense. But you had really put it together, and this is the fun part of real estate is doing something that wasn't there, turning it into something cool. And it's a lot more fun than just buying a building that everything's done. That's nice because you can collect rent checks. You don't have to worry about it. That's what happens when we sell the building. The people who get it, they're the ones that are going to just collect those rent checks. But the work that we do is a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more interesting. And it's really cool how it's come out now. And we all know with drive-thrus, COVID just kind of put the focus on how important those were. And now I think it seems like people's patterns haven't totally shifted back to COVID. DoorDash is really popular now. The drive-thrus are really popular. We're still kind of, we have the new variant right now, so people are a little bit more cautious. Here we are at the end of 2021, and people are still cautious. So these drive-thrus, the value there is just tremendous for the landlord and for the tenant. So yeah, I think everything that you did, now you look back and it's like, oh yeah, that must have been easy, but you look brilliant now.
That's the good part. And like you were saying, I think for us, one of the really fulfilling parts is the before and after. It's one thing to buy stock low and sell high, but sure, that's great, generate a profit. But for us to literally look at that corridor and kind of see the before and after, and then specifically with our property, just seeing it kind of operating its highest and best use, and with people from the community coming there, I think That's the part that's really exciting, and we're well along that path, which is great.
Yep. And the drive-through is going to be kind of, is it double lane and then it feeds into one lane? Is that right?
That's right. It's a dual stack.
Yeah.
So you'll see a lot of drive-throughs that way now, whether it's McDonald's or Dutch
Yeah.
Bros, Chick-fil-A, any of those. It's just a much more efficient mechanism. But also for our site specific, what we don't want to do is get to the point where you're generating so much traffic that cars are backing up into Broadway Road.
Yeah. I
So
mean, that happens all over town right now. It's really frustrating.
yeah, with Salad and Go, with
Yeah.
some of their older locations that were not dual stack, kind of notorious for that. So it's definitely something we wanted to mitigate. And the dual stack drive-through allows so many more cars to stack within the property as opposed to backing up along Broadway, which is
Yep.
hugely beneficial.
And then, so we'll have that two double stack drive-through, which is great. Will they pick up the food on the north side of the building or on the west side of the building?
On the north side of the building, so essentially going through what's right now is the back alley.
Yep.
They pick it up, and then they can either take a hard left and come out onto Broadway Road,
Okay.
or they can continue west behind Burger Rush and out onto the side street
Okay.
there. So it kind of just, it's the best operation for flow. For the
Wow.
property.
Sounds like you've thought through this pretty well.
Oh,
So
the number of hours I've spent staring at an aerial
Yeah.
with a pencil, and myself and the architect and everyone. So
yeah, I'm glad someone else, because some of these places I go into, I'm not going to mention any names, but I do like Chick-fil-A, I do like Cane's, and I'm in there frequently. And some of the way they're laid out, I'm like, I don't think there was a lot of planning. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that we have some planning there. And we already have Burger Rush that's there. They have a pretty busy drive-through already.
mhm.
And so let's talk about the third tenant. And the nice thing is we've been able to wait a little bit on this third tenant so that we don't have to they don't have to necessarily get a great deal because they sign early. We're kind of waiting a little bit strategically, because once they see the other things that are in place, once they see, Dunkin Donuts in there, Burger Rush in there, all our plan, then it seems like that's really the time to bring in a third tenant and say, hey, you see all this traffic, you can go right here. Who would you ideally like to see in there? And I obviously there'll be a vetting of tenants, so it's hard to know who. There's a bunch of different types of tenants, but you can just give us a profile of the type of person that you'd see in there on that third space.
Sure. So one of the key components that we pushed for during our site plan phase with the city was we do have the ability to do another restaurant in that space. Initially, there was some hesitation regarding parking, but we know that Dunkin's not a heavy parking use.
Especially with the drive-through now.
Yeah, and same thing with Burger Rush. They're mostly drive through those locations, so we know that from an operational standpoint, we can actually make that work. So while we were going through that process, we were still kind of hesitant to see. There's plenty of good retail uses that we would like to see there, but a restaurant use just generally is in higher demand, and frankly, can typically pay higher rent.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we know that's a possibility as well, we're going to kind of just go down both paths. And it's a combination of things. Obviously, we want a tenant with great credit strength, a strong tenant that we know is going to pay rent. We also want, to make sure we're getting a market rent for our space. And, thirdly, we want it to be a complementary use. So obviously, we're not going to put a donut shop.
Starbucks isn't going next door
Yeah,
to Dunkin Donuts.
Exactly. There's not going to be another burger location, but there's plenty of other uses that could tie in.
And they won't have a drive-through, this one, correct?
This one would
So
not.
the drive-through is just for Dunkin'. This is kind of a standalone.
And there'll be a shared patio between that space and the Dunkin' space,
Oh, nice.
kind of on the east side of the building, so it's shaded in the afternoon.
Yeah. This is really exciting because, we've done apartments for 4 years. This is our first retail one. And I anytime I'm in Tempe, I try to go over to Burger Rush and buy a burger and a shake because it's really good. I never had gone there before, but right there on Broadway, close to the 10, and so it's a convenient spot, and I'm really excited to kind of see this come out and go out and support these people because you don't get to really do that with apartments. With apartments, you fill them up, you get people in there, and then you just leave them alone. They don't want to be bothered. Right? These tenants, they want to be bothered. They want us to come by. They want us to become customers. We have over 150 Arizona investors on this project, so there's going to be 150 people who have a vested interest to go support these folks. I've noticed a yogurt place that's by a lot of, like 2 or 3 Dunkin Donuts. It seems like they follow them. I forget what, they're like a neighborhood yogurt place. Something like that would be cool, but who knows? I don't want to project something and because most of the time when you do that, it doesn't work out. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we'll definitely end up with a big surprise, but it's really exciting too. Like you were saying, we have the advantage that we can kind of just wait and allow the project to mature across the street and allow our construction to start. We're not scrambling to find a tenant because we know that the more time has passed and further down the line we are with the redevelopment, the higher rent we're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah, when somebody comes in and sees that, they're going to jump at it. And we already have 2 out of 3 tenants in place, so we're 66% rented already. So that's fantastic. So yeah, this is a great Christmas present for everybody, for you too, I'm sure. After
Absolutely.
9 months, December 14th, the approval last week, and it's fun to go through that process. They had the forum online, and I think our whole office was logged in, just listening.
Mhm.
And you said you were confident it would get approved. But we were all there, just kind of fun to be part of that, and so we look forward to when will construction start roughly?
Probably mid-February. So we'll be submitting our construction drawings here shortly, pulling those permits. Like I said, probably mid to early February. The ball is going to go back in the city's court, and with the holidays, we're being conservative and padding those timelines a little bit because there's a lot of vacation time. But I think we're anxious to get going. I'd predict kind of mid-February.
Okay. Are you still committed to letting me drive the bulldozer?
That's a huge important component.
Okay.
And yes, absolutely.
Do we need to include that in the submission of the city just to make it official? Because
I think we do.
Okay.
We just got to make sure you demolish the right building, though.
Yeah, we'll do that. I'm serious about that, and then I'm sure you'll probably want to have a little piece of that too, because that's part of what we're doing is taking down an old structure, and so. When do you get to do that kind of stuff?
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it. So,
yeah,
good job on this, Chris, and have a good holiday. And we look forward to seeing what happens first of the year as this thing keeps making progress.
Sounds good. Merry Christmas.